Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Memorial Day weekend version of the Democratic View. And I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and today I am here with a gal who's been here several times before because we've talked a great deal about an organization that she is a part of called the Quiet Skies Coalition. And her name is Kathy Cunningham. And I just found out, Kathy, that you have lived here for 43 years, you lucky duck.
Yeah, I'm a lucky girl. It's a beautiful place. We call it paradise.
Well, that's what it says on my telephone.
On your answering machine. Right?
Yes, it does. It says Phyllis in paradise. And that's what we're trying to do, hold on to our paradise.
Trying to hold on to paradise, and it's not easy.
No, it isn't. I keep saying my hands are up like this, keeping Nassau County over there.
Yeah,
not
good
here.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And the Memorial Day weekend really opens the gates. It begins the season. It's gentlemen, start your engines, you know. So
boy, oh boy.
We're in the thick of it now.
Yes, yes, it does start. I think after a while it sort of calms down. After the people who come out here get that first rush of excitement to,
Yeah, midweek it's not too bad until the end of June, really. Once school lets out, then it's here in fall. The weekends will be crazy until then, but
Yes.
you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will still be salvageable.
So you have been dealing with a problem that is not just you dealing with it. It's a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I will never forget the board meeting where people from the North Fork came and spoke and said, the noise from your airport is driving me crazy.
It's intolerable. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the Quiet Skies Coalition is a group that sprang up about, I guess it's 3 years old this August now, in the summer of 2011, because at that point the helicopter traffic had really become the biggest aircraft noise offender. Helicopter operations have been the segment of aircraft operations that's grown most rapidly over the last, probably 5 years. And it's particularly egregious for people who live on the North Fork and Shelter Island, for whom this airport serves no purpose whatsoever. At least people in Southampton have to deal with it, but at least some of the people that come here live in Southampton or go to Southampton, and we know that about half of the pilots who are based here are Southampton residents. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's something that we've always known, but a lot of people don't recognize. Those are the hobby pilots for the most part, and members of the Aviation Association who base their aircraft here. But they're smaller planes, and they're not generally the ones that we have, noise issues with. They're not the ones that are flying at 2 in the morning or, generally not getting up at the crack of dawn, and are more respectful, I think, because they live here and they understand how to be good neighbors. But the commercial interests, including now seaplanes, which are a new offender because they fly low, they're not particularly aerodynamic because they have those big pontoons that are make their lift more challenging. I mean, they're obviously safe to fly, but they don't go up to very high altitudes. So they sound really loud and they fly really low. And there's some new some new service that's taking people out to Navy Beach and Montauk directly from 34th Street in New York. So for not much money, which is awful.
Well, as an old Fire Islander, we used to have that happen sometimes. They would come and land in the water and, and then I guess they would sort of get close because people would come out. I don't remember whether.
Well, they should have a dinghy.
Swim.
They should have a dinghy. Oh my goodness, that's been a problem for the Sag Harbor Village in the last couple of years. But there's a 1,500-foot buffer in which seaplanes cannot be, from the shoreline out 1,500 feet. Although they have broken that rule a couple of times over in the harbor in Sag Harbor.
Why am I not surprised that they broke a rule?
But it's particularly dangerous over there by Havens Beach because there are a lot of swimmers and a lot of, people doing paddleboarding and small sailboats and a lot of kids. There's a sailing school right there, I've forgotten the name of it for a minute, but, there's they have a sailing camp there in summer and stuff. So it's a big issue and it needs to be governed. The problem with any aircraft is that the only thing you can really control is where they land and where they take off. And
Yes.
to get back to the town of East Hampton and our airport, we know that the best way to control aircraft noise is by controlling the numbers and concentrations of flights. That we cannot dictate what they do in the air. It's out of our realm. It's strictly the realm of the FAA,
That's
Federal
right.
Aviation Association.
And I certainly can understand
Yeah.
that. After all, if there's going to be planes going around, they certainly are the ones that should
Right.
be monitoring that so
Right.
that they don't,
Right.
bump into each other up there in the sky.
Right, just like the Department of Transportation governs the roads, right? The rules of the roads are part of the DOT, and the rules of the air are part of the FAA. So we acknowledge that, but because we've made recommendations to pilots over the decades to please fly higher altitudes really do mitigate the impact of sound on the ground with, not much success. And of course, the helicopters are a whole different animal in terms of their noise footprint and the kind of noise they emit, which is particularly jarring to the human ear. Unlike, not that jets are not, but the sense of I think the sound wave grows and then diminishes, where with the helicopters, that whoomp whoomp sound, you get a really long premonition of it, and then a very, the pre-event sound is palpable, as is the post-event sound. So it's quite a difficult
I always
thing.
thought the way they showed it in the movies that the helicopter went straight up.
Well, they have that capability, and we have had a couple of, we know that to be technically feasible. What we cannot do is dictate that to the pilots. The pilots have to decide that's what they're going to do. And what we have recommended is that they spiral up on the airport property to
Oh,
2,000
yes.
or 2,500 feet, and then continue to climb as they, go wherever they're going, heading
Makes a
out,
lot of
whatever. It
sense.
makes a lot of sense. I think one of the reasons that many of the pilots don't do it is because they don't feel that it's a comfortable ride for their passengers, and it takes longer, so they have to expend more fuel. Costs a little more, but these, for the noise-affected community, this seems like a fair trade-off to ask. You're already, these helicopter flights are already having such a negative impact on the peaceful enjoyment of one's home and property that it seems a small price to pay to spend a little more fuel and a little more time to come in and out of East Hampton Airport.
Now, wasn't there recently some kind of a change in the kind of airport, the kind of helicopter, something about 4, if I'm not mistaken?
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is a little bit complicated, but the rules that allow municipal proprietors, such as East Hampton Airport, to govern noise impacts of aircraft using its airport only apply by federal regulation to stage 2 or stage 3 craft. Actually, I think it's only it's stage 2. Anyway, up until recently, helicopters had been classified by the FAA as stage 2. There are certain criteria that they establish. I actually don't know what it is. I just know it's kind of arcane and a little bit, I don't want to say whimsical, but it just doesn't follow a pattern that one can detect. It's not like, well, if it's got this many cylinders and it emits
Right.
this level of sound or has this
Right.
size engine or this weight.
Right.
With regard to helicopters, we don't really know what, compels them to classify them, but they were a class 2. Stage 2 classification, which gave us hope before the recent news that we don't need FAA funding to run this airport, that we might take FAA funding and regulate helicopter traffic because Stage 2 traffic was permissible to regulate by the FAA. But I think it was maybe 2 months ago.
They changed.
Yes. They decided that all helicopters
little
now,
wiggle room.
right, that's right, are now going to be classified as Stage 4 craft, which eliminates their
Need to get
ability to be regulated under, the current FAA rules. And not only that, but other currently classified Stage 2 craft can apply for the new classification if they run into trouble. So actually, the reclassifying of this was meant specifically to target East Hampton Township's desire to regulate helicopter traffic at our airport. It's pretty remarkable that a federal agency would go to those lengths, but it shows you how well-moneyed and powerful the helicopter lobby is, because they're the ones that are able to push these regulations.
You mean there's
through.
a helicopter lobby that puts money into? Oh, I can't believe that.
I know, it's
Isn't
shocking.
that amazing? that our
Yeah.
our federal agencies would listen to that
respond
kind
to
of
something
thing.
like
oh
that.
my
I
goodness!
I know. Well, anyway.
It used to be a democracy, you know.
Once upon a time, yeah, once upon a time. But anyway, the other really good news, that's not an irrelevant path for us right now, but it's old news because
Right.
what was most thrilling this week is that at the Tuesday work session of the town board on May 20th, a subcommittee of the Business and Finance Advisory Committee charged with a full examination of the airport's finances, with a particular charge to see if it could be financially self-sustaining, which would eliminate the need for Federal Aviation Administration funding and the egregious obligations that come with that. If you take FAA funds, you abandon your rights as the
Yes.
proprietor, and it's quite simply that. So this has been something the noise abatement community has long suspected, but we've never, ever, I've been at this now since 1996, so however long ago that was. It's 2014, so 20 some odd years. And we've never had a financial analysis of that airport that properly attributes income and expenses the way this group has done. So we really applaud the efforts of the subgroup under Arthur Malman's chairmanship. And Peter Wadsworth was instrumental in executing a lot of the documentation and being a good support person. He actually made most of the presentation on Tuesday to the
Yes,
town
he
board.
did. Yes.
So,
And we mustn't forget that Kathy Burke-Gonzalez did
I can't sing her praises more loudly. She has
did a great
done-
job. Yes.
And really was exactly the right person at the right time to shepherd this process through, because she didn't have a strong history with it in one direction or the other, even though she was elected on an airport noise abatement platform. She recognized the needs of the aviation community and was able to devise, a process that is allowing the actual issues to emerge in ways that can be negotiated.
And that the proponents of both sides were able to sit
Able
down
to come
together.
to the table, yeah,
And that
absolutely.
was
It was
really,
remarkable. I
really
mean, I'm telling you, in
terrific.
all the years I've done this, I had to pinch myself at that meeting on Tuesday. I said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. But it was very encouraging. And the really thrilling part of their report is that the financial analysis that they conducted just assessed the status quo if we do nothing to regulate, to limit access, which means if we limit access, we collect fewer landing fees, and landing fees are one of the biggest revenue streams for the airport. So that is an important consideration as we go forward. If we have less income, how is that going to impact the safe management and maintenance of the airport? And the committee was able to put forward 3 or possibly 4 scenarios. I haven't really had time to thoroughly review the report, but there was a graph that indicated that the status quo, even with the status quo, which means no limits, status quo through limiting 20% of helicopters, limiting 50% of helicopters, and completely banning helicopters altogether, that in each of those instances, each of those scenarios, there was still enough money to run the airport safely, to continue to invest in important safety capital improvement projects and the other kinds of things that a safe airport needs to run, which was just
Enough to blow your
thrilling.
mind.
It was so, yeah, it was so thrilling.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought it up is because there are other revenue enhancements that the airport is capable of, such as, you know, a real obvious one is to pay for parking. Nobody pays for parking over there. And parking is at such a premium here in our community that the idea that anybody parks there without paying, suggesting that's going to be a huge revenue stream, but it's one of many that the town board can consider.
And if you can fly in and out of this town, whether you fly by jet or helicopter, I think you can afford to pay for your parking.
Oh, I think so too. And the other really exciting thing is, one of the points that Arthur Malman made very articulately, particularly as a person who's, you know, he's a finance guy, so he's just looking at the numbers. We have over 600 acres there. I think it's 628 acres. It's zoned industrial, and our town is desperate for industrial, you know, economic opportunities and development. Now, it is over our water recharge area, so there would be strict governance for any other uses on the perimeter of the property that aren't essential to the airport operations. But there's a whole lot of development potential over there. For, you know, industry and economy in a town that really needs it.
Yes.
So that was a very exciting revelation also for the town board's consideration. But even Larry Cantwell said, and I can't emphasize this more strongly because it's been something we've been saying for years, but our aviation interests have denied and actually promoted the opposite point of view, which is the airport can be run without FAA funding. There was a very long-held view and publicized position that if we don't take FAA money, the airport will fall into disrepair. And it's just not the case. So that's a thrill. And,
Yes.
and finally, validation for a position that
With an
we knew to be
exclamation
true.
mark
Yeah,
at the end of
absolutely,
that,
absolutely.
saying, we really don't need that.
Yeah.
It is really our airport, and therefore we should control it.
Right. And I say this as a person who represents an organization that suffers from airport noise, but is not promoting closure of the airport. I've had to say this so many times I can't tell you, but we have never said we want to see the airport closed. We just want it managed more appropriately, and to have airport noise be among the top priorities of how that facility is run.
Well, I can't let this moment pass without telling you my own sort of things that happened to me. I am a late person. I usually have my laptop while I'm in bed, doing my email, doing some writing, and 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear a plane over there. Now, who's coming in and out at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Foxwoods. People coming back from Foxwoods. I understand what you're saying. I've heard it too. But this
I mean,
gives
I
me...
live in the Springs,
I understand.
way on the tip.
I understand.
Why are they over my house?
Well, they're coming from Connecticut, I guess. You know, they're coming from that direction.
Well, it's just amazing.
Well, this gives me an opportunity to remind you and your viewing audience to
Yes,
call
and I
the
really
noise
need to write that
complaint
number down
hotline.
and keep it by
Right.
my bed.
And people, if you have your laptop, you can go online. It's very easy to log these complaints electronically. If you happen to be at your computer already, you can bookmark the page. And this summer is particularly important for us to have as many noise complaints as many of the noise affected who are suffering from aircraft noise to log their complaints, because we know that the federal court has recognized noise complaint data as a determining factor in FAA policy. So when we go to begin to set access limits, which will delightfully occur at 12:01 a.m., January 1st, 2015, which is a few short months away, sad to
Yes.
say,
Yes.
that we'll need these complaints to point to, because when we say, look, we need to limit access to our airport because these noise events are egregious, it upsets our community, and we need to be able to say to the powers that be, here's why, here's our data.
Yes.
So please call the noise complaint line,
Okay,
register
what
your
is the
complaints
noise
online.
complaint line? Tell the people out there.
Well, you'd think I'd have it committed to memory, and I do not, because I use the online, I go online all the time
But you
to
know
make
what, we
mine.
really do have to tell people at some point,
Right,
because
right.
not everybody is online.
Right.
And I did mean to add also that while I may hear it at 2 o'clock, it's usually about the time I'm closing my computer.
Right, I understand.
And getting ready to go to sleep, and sometimes the light has already been turned out.
Right.
And I hear it above me,
Right.
and I say,
What you can then do too is, and I've been recommending this, even if you just call once a day, you don't have to register every single complaint. You can, obviously, if you want to, but it's a chore to do it. And you can keep a little log, keep a little pen and pencil by your bed table and write down the time of day. And then in the next day or so, you put it in, as long as you get it done, in the next couple, 3 days.
here's what I usually do. I think of you. I say,
Well,
she told me I should call.
I'm sorry to know.
Block
I'm
the,
sorry to know that.
you
I would
know.
like your association with me to be something more pleasant than airport aircraft noise, but
Well, it is,
No, I'm
but I
joking,
do
but
always
yeah.
remember that you urge people to do that sort
right,
of thing.
right.
And I have not gotten into the habit of doing that, and it really is something I really should.
And invite your friends to do it too, because the noise complaints have fallen off over the last couple of years because people are so tired of calling, and
Yes.
because the notion that you're going to log a complaint and something might happen, there was no follow-up, there was no cause and effect. So people have what we call complaint fatigue. They're sick to death of it, and they don't want to have to do it anymore. But this summer is particularly important, so please urge any of your neighbors or
Well,
anybody you know to.
Do you hear that out there?
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Particularly
something.
if people are hearing these noises in Springs. Springs tends to be less affected than, say, Wayne-Scott or East Hampton Village.
That's right.
Because you're not in the direct line of travel for most of these
Well, I mean,
craft.
it doesn't, what amazes me too is that you can hear one at 11:30 and then maybe at 1 o'clock.
I know.
And then at 2 o'clock, and
I
you
know.
say, where are they going?
I
What is
know.
this about?
I know.
And
Well,
it's not always on Friday. and-
Right.
and it is on Friday.
It's frequently
And
on
it's
Friday.
also on Monday
Monday,
or
very
Sunday,
early Monday morning,
early in
yeah,
the morning and
right,
stuff like that.
right.
And, but it can be during the week as well. Now, I must say, in the winter, it does abate.
Right.
Well, everything abated this
Sure,
winter,
sure.
But,
Yeah, it was too cold to do much of anything.
right.
Right.
But, it really is a difficult thing, and it's annoying. It's annoying because it disturbs what should be quiet time,
Right.
and that's,
Well, one of the most important values that homeowners cherish here is the peaceful enjoyment of their homes and properties. People come here to get away from noise, not to be involved with more noise. So it's a totally counterintuitive circumstance that the people that come out here to relax, a very small percentage of them travel by plane, but that transportation mode litters the area with noise, and we don't even get the worst of it. And the poor people in Sag Harbor, Southold, Shelter Island, they get most of it. And one thing that people should be anticipating this year, and we have no idea how this is going to work out, but the northern route that was mandated by the FAA for helicopter traffic that was headed to East Hampton sunsets on August 6th. So we'll be halfway through the summer, or thereabouts, when the requirement for those craft to fly that route will lift. unless it's rolled over, which I don't know that it will be. My sense is it won't be because there's been so much pushback on it. But that'll change the whole dynamic of the pattern that the helicopters follow.
You're watching my mouth drop, and I'm
I-
saying to myself, oh my God, now they're going to be over my house with helicopters.
Right.
Well, they are over my house
Right,
sometimes with
I
helicopters.
understand.
I often wonder why.
Well,
but
I think you're also going to find a lot more traffic heading out to Montauk over the Springs area, because there's a heliport out there, and the seaplanes can land. There's an airport out there. So there's also
thank you very much, Kathy. This has been most enlightening, and I'm so happy that that budget committee did do that.
they did a great job. They
And
really
now
did
we
a great
know
job.
that
Right.
we don't need FAA money.
Right.
Bravo.
Yay!